tonight was episode 3 of Stargirl season 2, and we finally get some information on that pink pen that they teased back in season 1. Pat said it was extremely dangerous and powerful, and now we know why. So, fair warning before we dive into this review, it is filled with spoilers. This is a spoiler review, so if you have not yet watched tonight's episode, come back later after you have, and we'll talk about it. Okay, now also, if this is your first time here, I'd love it if you take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy the content and you want more Stargirl or more DC stuff like Titans as well, go ahead and hit that notification bell. Okay, let's talk about episode 3 of season 2 of Stargirl. Hey, Tessa from MamasGeeky here. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. Okay, so right off the bat, I gotta tell you, I love that they started this with a flashback to that fateful Christmas day where, you know, the JSA took on the ISA and they were all just completely obliterated. At least I'm pretty sure it was that Christmas day. Either way, it was a Christmas day. And so we get introduced to Johnny Thunder. Him and Stripesy, aka Pat, have been left behind, and we learn a little bit about this pink pen. I mean, Johnny Thunder is there holding it, calling it the Thunderbolt, and saying that in his hands, this is just a mess for the JSA to pick up, although on paper, it should be the most powerful of all of the JSA, even all of them combined. So it gives you that little bit of intrigue. What is it? I can't wait to see. And they do a great job of, you know, starting off with that's it. Now, of course, the JSA ends up saying, we need help, we need backup, and Wildcat comes to collect Johnny Thunder, leaving Pat behind even more. Now we do see Pat in the flashbacks being a part of this fight, or at least being there. So maybe this isn't that Christmas day, although I'm pretty sure it is, and something happened and Pat ended up going to help as well. Or maybe he just went after them without them calling for him to come. Now, they do say that Starman was very specific in his instructions that Pat has a son. Pat needed to stay behind because he needs to take after his kid, which is Mike. So obviously I immediately was like, oh, we're going to get some Pat and Mike something this episode. And what they gave us was really, really good. Now, back in episode 1 of the season, we saw Cindy and her files of who she's planning to recruit for the new ISA, and Mike was on there. And I thought to myself, okay, if Courtney, Barbara, Pat, and the rest of the JSA continue to push him away and kind of make him not feel important and make him feel like he's not part of the team, then Cindy could definitely recruit him. Now, we get to see he's on a bike route, a paper route on his bike, and he gets bullied, and he comes home, and they're all working on who's the shade, what's going on, and they just tell Mike not to worry about it. Again, pushing him to the side, making him feel alone. He gets a call from his boss to add another house to his paper route. However, his pen runs out of ink, so he goes to Courtney's room, and he grabs that pink pen again in season 1, where Pat had said, listen, this pen is dangerous, this pen is powerful, this is, like, don't touch it, okay? So now Mike has it. He's out on the road again on his bike, he falls off his bike, we see the words "so cool" on the newspaper, and he says it out loud, "so cool." And then basically that's activation. The pen is basically a genie lamp, you guys. Out comes "so cool," I guess. Thunderbolt, voiced by the hilarious Jim Gaffigan, which I thought was a choice. As the season, or as the episode went on, though, it did really work, and I was like, okay, no, Jim Gaffigan really works as this voice. I will say Thunderbolt looked a little silly. I mean, he's like this pink see-through guy with like these electric things all over him, and they show him a little bit, but mostly he talks through the pen, which I think was a smart choice for several reasons. He does say, you know, people get scared when they see me, but basically Mike learns that he has, he calls himself the newest member of the JSA. He has control of Thunderbolts. Now, he does learn very quickly that he needs to be very specific with his wishes. So he's told, you have unlimited wishes, go ahead, what do you want first? He's like, I'm thirsty, I would like some water. Well, what happens is a whole thing of water just basically dumps on his head and drenches him. So he learns, I have to be specific. And Thunderbolt even tells him, you gotta be specific. So he learns that pretty much right away. Now, I will say he also sees those very same bullies that beat him up stealing Girl Scout cookies from a little Girl Scout, and he says, make them stop. Well, how does Thunderbolt make them stop but drop like hundreds of stop signs from the sky all around them? It's crazy. He creates damage. I mean, it literally goes through a car. And Yolanda and Courtney find Mike and the pen and the stop signs on their way home from summer school. So, and Mike's like, hey, I'm the newest member of the JSA, woo woo. And they're like, oh, what are you doing? This is crazy. So, of course, they go back to Pat's garage where the whole JSA is there meeting and talking, and Pat is not happy. He's saying, you know, this is not good, like, give me the pen, whatever. And every time he goes to hand it over, it goes back to Mike. So Pat's like, all right, call out Thunderbolt. I need to talk to him myself. So when he starts to have this conversation, something really, truly interesting happens. Thunderbolt says, I can only team up with people who are like me and who feel completely and utterly alone. Now, this is a hint to Pat that Mike is feeling this way. And it's kind of like you just want to shake Pat and say, you are going to create a villain if you keep doing this. Now, he does end up, you know, saying, okay, fine, you can kind of help us find the Shade. That's who they know is this Richard Swift character from the episode before. We know that. And they know that they don't know why he's there, but they know they have to stop him somehow. Now, Barbara has another encounter with him when she is in the like warehouse area in the room that has all of the Wizard's belongings, which we know the Shade has come and said he wanted to purchase them. So there's something that he is looking for here. There's something that he wants. He's able to, we get to find out his powers because Pat explains it to the JSA, saying that, you know, he can manipulate shadows and darkness. He can move between them. And that's really where his power comes from. And he's very, very powerful. So that is how he showed up in this spot where Barbara is. She says he's trespassing. He says he wants to look around, and, you know, she says, I was just taking inventory. Is there anything, you know, what are you interested in? Well, he finds this little box and he opens it up, and there's a spot where something could have been there. Now, this is that Eclipso Gem, which we do find out later in this episode is actually called the Black Diamond. And, but it's not there. It's not in the box. He asks, can I take this box? It's just empty. Barbara says no, and he just like turns the lights out and he leaves. He disappears, okay? So Barbara, of course, tells Pat what's going on, and they realize they really need to find the Shade. So bring back in Mike, okay? I love that they did this. They pull out a whiteboard. This was the perfect way to do this. And they spend, I don't know how long, a montage getting the exact wording that they need because, again, they have to be very specific if they want a Thunderbolt to do what they want. So they want to find Shade's location. They get a paragraph of wording for Mike to say, and a little flame comes out of the pen, shows up on the map, and of course, why didn't they think of this before? It's William Zarek, aka the Wizard's house, where the Shade is. Obviously, the Wizard is dead. The Shade's just hanging out there. They decide they're going to go, and they kind of try to put together a plan. Mike's like, yeah, let's go. And Pat's like, no, stay here. Kind of like, I mean, listen, Pat has had this happen to him before. He's been benched before. He should know how it feels. And he literally was just told that Mike is feeling completely and utterly alone. However, he still makes him stay behind. And I think this is a decision that is going to propel him into this villain territory, right? Cindy wants to recruit him for the ISA. And I feel like it's getting closer and closer there, especially the way they treat him. They are literally creating a villain. They need to be smarter about this. I mean, Pat was literally just tipped off about this. So I was kind of like, I wanted to reach through the TV and shake him, you know, and be like, what are you doing? You're crazy. No. Either way, they end up going into the house and they see the Shade there. Richard sitting there nicely, drinking some tea. He says, listen, we could fight. We could all perspire. We could... Or you guys can sit down and, like, let's just have a conversation, right? Let's do this the Gentile way. And Beth is very upset because she has found out that he is the one who killed Dr. Midnight. And she's saying, you know, this is the only member of the original JSA that we haven't avenged right now. So she's fuming. Of course, she's missing Chuck. He's gone. When he did pop back to the goggles real quick, he didn't remember her. So she's dealing with that, plus her parents getting a divorce. So she's in a very emotional state. And she's like, listen, we need to take him out. And she's very upset with the Shade. And now they do decide to sit down and listen to what he has to say. He tells them, hey, my interests aligned with the ISA at one point. Not anymore, okay? They don't align. That's why I left them. I got what I needed from them and I moved on. I am here for a reason I don't think I should tell you. There's no need for me to tell you. It's dangerous for me to tell you. Like, I'm here. Stay out of my way. I'll leave. My interests lie elsewhere. I'm not going to hurt Blue Valley. I'm not going to hurt anyone here at Blue Valley, okay? They start to listen, but of course, what happens? Mike bursts through the door with a carefully worded paragraph of to have Thunderbolt zap the Shade. He does. This starts a fight where the Shade literally just sits there like this, manipulating the shadows, barely breaks a sweat, and every single member of the JSA is knocked down, pinned up against the wall or something with what looked really cool. Now let me tell you, there wasn't a lot of action in this episode, but this fight looked really freaking cool because it's like arms in shadows and the hands, and I love the way that it was done. I think it looked great, but the JSA loses like in a minute. I mean, it's not even... it's like not even a fight, really. Okay, it's very bad. The Shade gets upset and just like says leave me alone, and leaves. Okay, we do see him at the very end of the episode up on a clock tower. He holds open that box. He's kind of playing with the shadow in it, and he says he's gonna kill these kids. Talking about Eclipso, right? Says, listen, Eclipso's a bad dude, right? We've seen him take Cindy's stepmom and just eat her darkness, so to speak, right? He feeds off darkness. So any of these kids that he can get to do something dark, he can absorb them, kill them, whatever it is that he does, feeds on them, right? So, and he's working his way through Cindy right now, okay? So he's not a good guy. I did like that they focused a lot on the Shade in this episode and getting to know him a little bit. I mean, is he there to fight Eclipso? Perhaps. We're not really sure, but I could definitely see him kind of being on the side of the GSA a little bit, just because he wants to take on Eclipso, okay? But really, I loved this episode overall. I thought it was great. Towards the end, listen, Mike feels bad about what he did, and he's talking about it, and he's holding the pen, and he's just not thinking. And he goes, I wish it was in better hands, right? I wish this was in better hands. So, of course, it disappears, and they all go, oh, Mike, what were you thinking? So the pen ends up showing up at this kid Jakim's house. Now, in the comic books, he is Jakim Thunder. He is one of the wielders of Thunderbolt. Is he going to end up joining the JSA? Probably. It's a quick introduction of him. It was not very long, just very short glimpse of him and his family talking down to him, his sister talking down to him. And so he obviously feels very alone. And then the pen starts to talk to him. So we get that as well. And then we see Rick and Beth working on the goggles, just trying to get Chuck to come out. Of course, Beth is also talking to Rick. Rick says, talk to me like I was Chuck. And so she kind of explains what's going on with her parents. And Rick says, listen, you should just talk to them. Like, do you know they're getting a divorce? You just found papers. Like, have a conversation with them. And at that same moment, her goggles, you hear Chuck come back. And he says, I don't know who you are, but listen, Eclipso is here. You are in danger. So hopefully the next episode, we get a lot of Eclipso. I'm assuming sooner than later, there's going to be some kind of big fight. I don't know if it will be the major fight like with Eclipso, but probably a little tease of what's to come later on. Again, I don't know what side the Shade is going to be, but I feel like he's going to be against Eclipso, unless he's trying to get Eclipso to work for him, but I'm not sure that that's the case. They do both have that darkness part of their powers, so I'm not really sure where that's going to go. Of course, I don't know what is going on with Chuck, why he doesn't remember Beth, why he's in and out, what's going on with those goggles and with him. It's very weird. Of course, we've still got Rick looking for Solomon Grundy. We've got Courtney and Yolanda in summer school. I mean, there's a lot still to go on. We obviously have Jenny, the Green Lantern's daughter, who came to town and then left. So there's definitely a lot going on. And then, of course, we have Jakim, who's, I imagine, going to find the rest of the JSA sooner than later. But this was a really solid third episode. Again, not a ton of action, but what we got was really freaking cool. And I don't know. You guys let me know what you thought about this episode down below in the comments. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss these weekly spoiler reviews of Stargirl. I'm also covering Titans on Thursdays, so be sure that you're checking that out, as well as Marvel's What If on Wednesdays, plus trailer reactions, movie reviews, all that fun stuff. So definitely stick around. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much to all of my monetary supporters, my members here on YouTube, as well as my patrons. If you haven't joined yet, please consider doing so. We have some really awesome perks, including a monthly Zoom meeting where we get to talk face to face. Thank you again to everyone who supports me.